Hi, welcome back to 500 Hobbies. My name is Amanda and this is the place on the internet where I talk all about my hobbies. So today I'm coming on to share some unlucky / bad knitting news. In my October knitting updates video, I shared that I had made a ton of progress on my Ingrid sweater and I just had the sleeves to go. So we can take a look here. I mentioned in the video also that it was a little bit more oversized than I wanted. I had my partner try it on. I was knitting the size large, and he is larger than the gift recipient, and it was pretty big on him. So at the time in the video, I had just, gone through monster weeks of knitting this sweater, and I thought there was no way that I'm gonna frog it. It's way too much work. I think I said it multiple times in the video. But I thought about it some more over the days since I filmed that, and I just thought, there's no way that I can gift this sweater that's gonna be like this large. I want it to be a nice sweater for my brother that he can wear to work sometimes, and I just don't really see him doing that if it has like 20 inches of positive ease, which I think is kind of what we're looking at. So I thought I would take the opportunity to kind of talk about like what I always talk about when people ask me, which is the most you'll ever love a sweater, in my opinion, is when it's on your needles. Similarly, I always say the most you'll ever love a dress or a top or anything is when it's in the store. So if you don't love it then, you are probably not going to love it when it's done. And especially with knitting, once I have the idea that I should maybe frog it, it kind of lingers in my brain until I decide to do it. So I thought I'm gonna frog it. But this also gave me an opportunity to make a pattern vlog about the making of the sweater. So I thought that we would take the opportunity to do that. This is one of my more involved knits because of all the texture. So I thought this is a good opportunity to do that as well. So I will talk a little bit about how I made this sizing mistake. So my brother has a 42-inch chest circumference based off of his suit size, and the size guide in the pattern talks about like actual bust circumference and how that translates to the sizing. So I actually did not make a sizing mistake based on the pattern, but I think it's a little bit too much positive ease for the fit that I'm going for. So they mentioned the measurements for your finished garment are on the front page of the pattern. Before beginning, measure yourself to decide which size to knit. For example, if you measure 40 inches around your bust, you should knit a size large. So the sizing for the size large is 39 3/4 to 42 1/4 inches. Actual bust. So I think that's how I decided to knit the size large. But it does note that this would give you 9 3/4 inches of positive ease, which I think for the fit that I am going for is way too much. And then I looked through Ravelry to see whether people had made this note before. And I didn't see anyone that wrote it down, but I did notice that there were a lot of size extra smalls to smalls knit for men who, based on pictures, look kind of like the size that my brother is. So that's how I decided to knit the size small. So the size small notes that the final size will be about 45 3/4 inches of chest circumference. So to me, for a more fitted sweater that you get to wear to the office, I think that that is probably enough to have like about 4 inches of positive ease. So sad to frog everything, but I think that this will result in a better fit and something that he'll wear a lot more often, which is the goal. So I started, I think about 3 days ago, started over. So I'll show you what I have so far. What I've done so far is the back yoke and just joined the left and front yokes pretty recently. So now I'm doing the front yoke chart. And I can already see that I think this is a lot more reasonable in terms of the sizing. So as of now, even though I know I have a lot of knitting to do, I am happy that I decided to start again because I think it's going to end up with a better product. So now we are going to be filming a pattern vlog through these steps. I will probably come back once I've finished the front yoke part and maybe joined in the round. Hello, it has been about 2 days since our last check-in. So as promised, I'm coming back now that I've successfully joined in the round. So I'm working on this large section of 2x2 rib, which almost made me lose my mind on the large size, but hopefully it'll go more quickly since this is a size small. And so I will finish that up and then also repeat the double moss stitch and the mock cables to finish the body. I am just as far as I can get without having to unravel the size large Ingrid sweater, so I'm not looking forward to doing that, but that is our next step. I think I've also realized maybe another plus of having to redo is originally with the size large, I was pretty sure I was going to have to order more yarn. So now that we've sized down, I think that what I have will probably be sufficient, although I'm still itching to put in that knitting for olive order. So we'll see. So time for our next Ingrid Sweater check-in. I have been working on this somewhat monogamously for about 3 weeks. So I just finished the body and also did the double folded neckline here, which this was my first time doing it with the Ingrid sweater. And I think it looks really nice and polished. I tried to weave in my ends as I went, so hopefully that'll make getting to the end of the project a lot cleaner. And I just cast on for the first sleeve. You can see that I have the stitch markers going for the decreases. So I have not too much yarn left for 2 sleeves, I think. I weighed it right before I started the first sleeve and I had 170 grams. So I'm starting to feel right now that I'm probably going to need a little bit more yarn. So my plan is to finish the first sleeve and then weigh whatever's left and see how much I need to order. Today is November 18th. I'm hoping to finish the first sleeve by the weekend, and then hopefully, unless yarn delivery delays us, I will finish the whole sweater by Thanksgiving. So I will come in and check in again after the first sleeve is done. So I got into a really good knitting flow yesterday and I ended up finishing the sleeve in just 2 days. So we're all done. I do think it goes a little bit faster doing the sleeves because it's the same kind of stitch textures that you got familiar with when you were knitting the body. I did mess up the decreases. So you were supposed to decrease by 2 stitches every X number of rows, and I only read the first part of the sentence, I guess, and assumed it would just be 1. So what I did was decrease by the rest of the stitches here, right before doing the ribbing for the cuff. And I think that'll probably be okay. I don't think it'll impact the fit in a really significant way, but it means I do have to remember what I did for this sleeve so I can make the same mistake on the second one. And in terms of yarn, so remember we had 170 grams before I picked up stitches for the first sleeve. We have 90 grams now. So I think it'll be tight, but we might be able to squeeze out the second sleeve with just what I have. There is a little bit of time to order more yarn if I end up not having enough. And given that I did the first sleeve in just 2 days, I think that will kind of help the timing situation too. So I will check back in and hopefully we'll have a finished sweater.
I wear my jeans tight, I follow the highlights, I stay out the...
So today is the day after Thanksgiving, and we have been working on the Ingrid sweater for the better part of a month, and I am happy to announce that I now have a fully finished, fully blocked Ingrid sweater well before my deadline of the end of the year. And I'll just show here, as well as some of the sleeve detailing. And in terms of yarn, I feel like I have the perfect amount left, so it wasn't anywhere close in terms of needing more, so I'm glad I didn't order another safety skein. And I think it's just enough that if I ever have to go back and do some mending or something, then I have a little bit to work with. This was a really nice knit. In terms of my thoughts on the pattern, obviously this is one that is well known if you're on the internet at all and you're knitting. And it had been one kind of on my knitting bucket list ever since I started, but kind of thought it was above my skill level. I would say that this is actually probably appropriate for an advanced beginner. So the mock cables, I felt like looking at the pattern were a little bit intimidating, and definitely you get a lot of experience working with the chart. But I think Petite Knit does a really good job with setting it out super clearly. And the mock cables, I think, allow you to get the look of a cable without working with the cable needle or anything like that, if that seems to be a little bit out of your wheelhouse. I would give this pattern probably an 8 or 9 out of 10. I thought everything was really clearly written. I really enjoyed the construction, and the different textures really keep your knitting motivation at a high level. I have talked a little bit about kind of the reason I had to frog everything and start over with a size small is because I think the sizing is a little off in terms of the amount of positive ease included in the pattern. I think if you don't read super closely, that's easy to miss. I missed it the first time, and maybe that's a little bit on me, but I do think 10 inches of positive ease feels like a lot for something that's not advertised as oversized. I'll talk about the yarn a little bit too, since this is my first time working with Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. I had worked with their regular merino and their soft silk mohair as a combination, and that was just a really dreamy, soft combination. So I was really surprised to find that actually the heavy merino was a little bit scratchy when I was working with it. There were times where it felt so irritating to my skin when I was kind of holding it here, the continental knitting style, that I had to put the project down. And I was really surprised, like given my experience with their other merino. But according to the internet and now my own experience, it does soften up quite a bit when you block it. Some of this yarn, because I had blocked it when it was a size large, and then again when it was a size small, it's even been blocked twice. And I think that that really has helped soften it up. It does feel a little bit more rustic than I was expecting. But when I bought this yarn, I would say that I wasn't as experienced with like picking fibers and things like that. So that could be part of it as well. So I think if you are thinking about knitting up the Ingrid sweater or using Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino and you have more sensitive skin, I think I would just consider that. My partner tried this on for me because he's approximately the same size as my brother, and he felt like it was still kind of scratchy after blocking. So when I knit more Ingrid sweaters, either for him or myself in the future, I might be looking into a yarn alternative. So if you have knit up the Ingrid sweater and have found something else to work with, I would be happy to hear about that in the comments. Mostly what I've seen recommended are other more rustic yarns like Sadness Yarn, Sunday or Double Sunday, I think it is. So I would be really glad to hear about any other yarn combos that worked. Anyway, it was really fun to walk through its process in the pattern blog, and I think it's something that I would consider doing again if I have the forethought when I'm starting a project. So thanks for hanging with me throughout all of this, and I'll see you in the next one.